All right, today we are with Ginger Boatwright. Ginger, is this where you're from?
I am definitely from here.
Tell the folks where we are.
We are in Palmetto, Pickens County, Alabama, right between Slowdown and Litter Barrel.
All
That's where I
right.
live. Population 300 people and a goat, and I'm kin to all of them.
And you were born and raised here?
Well, I was born in Columbus, Mississippi, because during World War II, if you had a husband, a spouse fighting overseas during the war, you could have your baby in any hospital free. So when Mama got the urge, she drove to Columbus and had me in Columbus, Mississippi, and then 8 days later turned around and brought me back. So, yeah, this is where I'm from.
All right.
For
But
sure.
you don't stay here all the time. First time I met you, you were in Alaska.
Well, that's because I met this feller over here, my husband. Up till that point, I'd been living in Nashville for 26 years. Because that's where the music industry is, as far as I'm concerned anyway.
Okay.
So, but I've always come back here, always. I mean, Doug Dillard has played, we've got an old Bluegrass barn down there, and Doug Dillard has played down there. My band, the Bushwhackers, have played down there. Red, White, and Bluegrass played down there.
Okay.
I'm from here.
All right. Well, where did it all start? How'd you get interested in music?
In music, well, I've always liked music, and my mother and daddy always played and sang. Daddy played guitar, and Mother is just a killer singer. She's 94 now, but when she was young, she was awesome. Before World War II, they had a radio show down here called Bill and Kate that was very popular. And Mom and Dad would, when we were on vacation, we'd go and sit in places and play. Mom and Dad would, and when we traveled, Mother would start a song, and if I didn't know the harmony, I'd sing lead, and then my mother and my sister would sing the harmony. So we've always sung, and so it just was something I loved more than anything. And in 1969, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and I was told I had 3 weeks to live. Well, prior to that, I had met Grant Boatwright and my cousin Dale Whitcomb, who's fifth cousin, and we had been picking around Birmingham on the Sunday show with Joe Livingston. And I think that was his name. Anyhow, when they told me I had 3 weeks to live, I said, well, if I got 3 weeks to live, I'm playing music. So there was an old man from down here in Alabama named Monk Daniels, old-time fiddle player, just a wonderful old man. He says, well, I got a booking up in Chicago. You want to go play it with me? So we drove him up to Chicago, and it was a place in Cicero, Illinois, 1969. And we got out and went in that place, and I just started shaking my head. It was like a big barn. I just said, for $1.25, you can get a beer and a gunshot wound. I'm not playing here. So we went in the cab, and I asked them to take us to the hippie section. And they dumped us out at the Earl of Old Town, down on Wells Street. And Earl Pianki had us play that night. And he tagged me as Stump Stompin' Mama, so I don't know why he did that. But then Ray Tate from the Old Town School of Folk Music pulled us in, and he hired us to come back, and he said, well, what's your name? And I said, Grant, Dale, and Ginger. He said, no, you can't use that name. There's already a Peter, Paul, and Mary, and that has biblical overtones, and yours does not. He said, you got to come up with a name we can advertise before you come back. So I said, Strawberry Alarm Clock. No, we'll not have that. And I gave him a couple of more names, and finally I said, Red, White, and Bluegrass Band, Old-Time Banjo Pickers, and Horsehair Pullers Without Portfolio. And that was an old group from Sand Mountain back in the 20s. So he just hung up on me. When we got back to Chicago, he had us billed as Red, White, and Bluegrass with the grass in parentheses. So that's how we got our name. And I used to tell people it stood for redneck, white trash, and old blue. And I was the dog in the bunch.
There's a lot of famous folks came from Chicago, that area.
That was a good time. It was like Birmingham back in the 60s. It was open to any kind of music you wanted to play, and everybody appreciated music. They didn't draw a line and say this, this, and this. Oh, I can't play that. I only like blah. So, we'd be on the same venue with Bonnie Colock and Loudon Wainwright and Steve Goodman and Ed and Fred Holstein. I mean, it was just an amazing assortment of people. I just loved it, And Oh, Tom Paxton. All of these people were around that Old Town School of Folk Music up there. Just an amazing time.
Can't forget John Prine.
Oh, no, John Prine, he would come in there too. A lot. He was fun. We used to have a lot of fun. In fact, we were playing the Earl of Old Town one time, and I looked out in the audience, and there was Liberace. He was sitting there. He loved bluegrass. Who knew? Who knew? And he'd come in with his big piano-shaped ring on every time we'd play there. It was really neat.
Okay. Who all did you play with?
Who did I play with? Red, White, and Bluegrass, which was my band. The Bushwhackers, which was my band. That was between, let's see, Red, White, and Bluegrass was together 12 years. And then I had Bushwhackers together for a year. And we weren't real good, but we sure were fun. It was just a bunch of crazy women, and we were nuts, I'll just tell you. We were crazy. And then Doug Dillard came to town in 1981 and hired me, and I worked with him for 33 years. And then I do a lot of stuff on my own, too.
Okay.
I ain't picky. I just love to play.
Tell us about some of your projects.
Some of my projects. Well, let's see. Of course, I did the ones with Red, White, and Bluegrass, and I did one with the Bushwhackers, but I didn't own the recording at the time. Ambassador Clements called me up one day, and he says, I don't have a guitar. I'll trade you this Master for a guitar. So I gave him a Sigma guitar for the Masters, and then we redid it. And it's not particularly good, but it's a period of time that was interesting because Woody Herman played on it. He and Vassar were just all over it. It was really fun. And so that was one of my own personal projects. And then with Douglas, I really only did 2 albums because it was hard to get him to work. So in the meantime, I did one called, what's the one you like, Buck? Fertile Ground. Fertile Ground. I wanted to call it Topography, but they wouldn't let me. And I said, why not? And they said, well, you just can't call an album Topography. Well, you know what topography is, right?
Yeah.
The lay of the land.
Lay of the land.
They said I couldn't do that. That was evil. So I didn't do that one. But I did the album, which was fun. And then I decided I'd do another one. I did one called Sipsy, which was my roots down here coming out real strong. And mostly I did that one for my mom and dad. It's mostly farm stuff because I'm a farm girl. And then I had had cancer again in the meantime. When I met my husband on our honeymoon, he discovered a lump that turned out to be another cancer. So I figured, you know, after he blew himself up in 1998, I decided I better do a gospel album. I owed it for sure. So I did Inside the Gate, and that was just a labor of love. That was fun. Everybody on there volunteered. They all just showed up. And it's got 500 people on it, at least. It seemed like every time the door opened, somebody came in and wanted to play.
Okay.
So it's quite a, it's not really bluegrass. It's not really what you would call gospel as a rule. It's just, it's what I wanted to do, and it was fun. And I have another one that I've been trying to get done for 5 years, but with Mom having the strokes and my dad dying and taking care of them, it's just kind of put everything on the back burner. But then I met this guy who's got a recording studio, and I'm hoping he'll let me come in and do some recording.
I think we can work something out. What other plans you got for the future?
For the future, someday I want to go back on the road for a minimum of 10 concerts a year, concerts or festivals during the summer months. I'd like to do some other stuff. I'm planting trees down here. I'm in the process of reforesting with hardwoods down here. I just harvested 80 acres over here in pines, and I had them leave all the oaks. And when the county man came to tell me whether or not they could help me replant, he said, lady, I wouldn't replant this. He said, you've got a real healthy population of red oaks, white oaks, and cherry bark oaks. And I went, okay, well, I got some more acreage here. Let's see if we can plant that then. So I'm in the process of trying to replant this in hardwoods, mostly oaks.
You're staying busy then?
I stay busy. Anywhere I am, I'm busy doing something, even if it's crazy.
Okay.
You know.
As long as you've been in bluegrass, you've met pretty much everybody.
I consider myself lucky because when I started back in 1967, well, back up a little. When I was 10, so that'd be 54, my dad was in a group with one of our cousins, Cheryl Richardson, called the Magic City Ramblers. And we always watched Flat and Scruggs show, always. But we watched everything else. So that didn't click because we were watching every kind of music on TV back in those days. But Daddy was in this band. And that guy, Cheryl Richardson, he's still alive. He's 87 or 88 years old now. He's still one of the best tenor singers I ever heard in my life. And he likes to kid me because he said I told him when I was 10, they were using my Bible for road map. And he said, I stomped my foot. And I said, is that the only song y'all know? And I was doing a concert down here, and I was singing Using My Bible for a Road Map with Douglas. And he came up and says, is that the only song you know? Of course, I just cracked up. Nobody else knew what was going on, but I did. So, I don't know. I forget where we're going with all this.
Well, I said you knew everybody in Bluegrass.
Yeah.
Who do you have the most respect for?
The most respect in bluegrass music. There's quite a number of them. Because when I started, there weren't really any women in bluegrass to speak of. And I loved Jim and Jessie. They always treated me very, very equal. They were never condescending because I was a woman. Del McCurry, when he was young. He's just wonderful now. But I mean, when he was young, he was just always real nice to me. And his kids, I loved to watch them grow up. The most respect, I have respect for so many of them. Because bluegrass is not, you're not going to get rich playing bluegrass music. You know, it's not like country or rock and roll or R&B where you're suddenly big business. You know, Alison Krauss, but they didn't like, Hal Durham did not like banjos, so whenever Alison Brown would be taking a banjo break on their videos, they would always be showing the guitar player's hands. And that always struck me as a little strange, you know, because she's very commercial and I love her dearly. I think she is wonderful. But I still have this tendency to lean back and look at where it came from. The old dirt songs, listening to Bill Monroe talk about skidding logs behind a couple of mules. And knowing Ralph Stanley. I love Ralph Stanley. And to me, the Stanleys are more indicative of what bluegrass is than Bill Monroe. Because we talk about the high lonesome sound, and that came really from the Stanley brothers. I think they were just awesome, and I just hold them in high honor. I love them. I love the Louvin brothers, and I don't guess you could call them bluegrass because they were so commercial with what they did. But their harmonies, oh my Lord, they were good. I mean, these people, I'm just blessed I got to know these folks.
Doc Watson, where you put him?
Oh, Doc Watson. First time I saw him live was 1969. And he was one of the finest human beings I've ever known in my life. He used to tell me that every year he'd break down a 1958 Chevy and put it back together again, the engine. Now, he could do that. That man was something else. I have some pictures of me. We did a show one time, and Merle came over. He says, Ginger, can you come over here? We were at Ronsford, West Virginia. He says, can you come over here a minute? I want to show you something. So there's this big white van with the door open. So I'm standing, and he has me turn around and look out at the audience, which is kind of a big bowl that goes up the side of a mountain. And they had said it, Doc jumped out and grabbed me, scared the bejeebers out of me. Man, he's just a nice fella. Just nice. Merle was too. I love Merle to pieces. He was wonderful. We were riding one time, we were playing up in Wisconsin, and Doc says, Ginger, can y'all take Merle and get him something to eat? Said he hadn't been eating much the last few days. Said he's been drinking a little bit. And can you get him to eat something? So we said, come on, Merle, let's go get something to eat. So we got in our van, and we're driving, fixing to get on the interstate. And there's this car pulled over on the side with this guy working on his car. And Merle rolled his window down. And I said, Merle, I've got these really good homegrown tomatoes. You want to eat one before we get to the restaurant? He said, sure, and he reaches back and gets that bag of tomatoes, and he just starts lobbing them at this guy. And he looks at Grant, and he yells, floorboard it! And, of course, Grant's like, what? What's going on? And I'm going, drive! The guy's coming after us! He was chasing us. But things were so much better. Now you try to get a band together and they say, what kind of a 401k do you have?
Yeah.
I'm going, don't you want to just pick?
All right, and you're going to be out there picking again soon.
Oh, yeah. I still do a limited number of concerts. Not many because of the situation here. I got a nursing degree when I was 62 years old just so I could take care of my mom and dad. Because I always promised Mother she'd never have to go to a nursing home, so I got my degree. And I worked for a doctor up in Alaska. And then when Mom called me and said Dad was in the hospital, I had to come down. I just quit my job and came on down. And I've been here ever since. My husband's very gracious and accommodating, letting me do that. But I still play some festivals up there. They don't have many. And I promote a little gospel festival up there in July. And that's kind of fun to do. It's just my little church up there. You know, and it's just the people that I like. I like everybody. There's just not a lot of bluegrass to pick from up there that I can get to in Anchorage. There's some all over the state, but I'll call and these people come and we'll have just a nice little show in the afternoon. It's free to everybody. We don't charge anything, and all the food is free. So you can't beat a festival like that.
That picking we done down in Homer, who all were you picking with?
Oh, down in Seward?
Stewart, yeah.
Seward, yeah. Oh, gosh. Let's see. The one on the auto harp was Steve Hines, and he's wonderful. He's wonderful. He and Brian Bowers know each other, and they're both super talented, so it's fun when they get together. Robin Hopper, who's a music teacher up there, and basically she plays folk, but she is so talented, such a good musician, very clever songwriter. I love songwriters. They just amaze me. We got the Mountain Man up there, Mike Childers, who likes to play some mandolin. We got some, who were some of those other people down there? I'm trying to think. It's the regular bunch, but there's so many of them and they come and go.
Yeah.
We had mandolin players, we had singers, we had guitar players.
AJ helped you sing.
Oh, LJ.
LJ.
Linda Jean. And she decided she wanted to learn to play bass, and I had a bass I had rented out. And this teacher had left it on a round post, and it fell and broke the neck off. So LJ bought it from me for what I had not collected from the rents. And she bolted that sucker back together, and she says, now, I need to learn how to play bass. Well, we didn't know she could sing. Turns out she had dated a mandolin player up there who was really, well, you can't sing, you have no talent. So she just didn't. But I'd hear her singing. Finally, I said, LJ, you need to sing with us. So we became the Scungili sisters, Mary O'Dean, LJ, Betty Hartford, and me. And we'd just go around, and wherever they'll let us, we'll stand up and sing something. If you got a cancellation at your show, we'll sing. Anything goes. But LJ is just, she turns out she's a super harmony singer. And she's a good lead singer, too. And Betty Hartford, she just came down here and did that show with me. Now, Betty is the lady about whom John Hartford wrote Gentle on My Mind. And she's moved back down here to Tennessee. So I called her and I said, I'm doing a show down at this little church. Can you come and sing with me? And she said, well, sure. So I got a 19-year-old guitar player who just blew my socks off. And another friend of mine who is a great mandolin player. And then my little 16-year-old cousin, John Thomas Poe, on keyboards. And he's just scary. He's so good. He's frightening. He's wonderful.
Okay.
But yeah, I still play.
All right, I look forward to meeting him, by the way.
Oh, he's wonderful. He'll scare you.
All right.
It's just awesome.
Well, I sure appreciate it, and hope to be back with you soon.
Well, I hope you're back with me soon, too.
All right.